Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program that we're presenting today for our AssetWorks training manual. For those of you who are attending this class, we will need, at the end of it, your supervisor or your director to authorize you to get into the programs to be able to utilize what we are showing you today. This program is set up to assist the departments in dealing with their inventories, dealing with their equipment moves, both into surplus as well as in and around the university, so that you can keep your housekeeping and your inventory under control for such times as the auditors may come in the door and want to check everything you've got and locate everything. This will help you do that. On the screen, you'll see my name and my phone number. You'll also see Michael McVoy, and we also have two student workers that can assist you at any given time. If you have any questions when you go to use this program or you need to clarify anything, any of us can answer these questions as you go. So as we get started here, I'm going to overview a little bit of the first portion of it to give you an idea of what it's set up to do. It's a basic introduction, like I just explained. It is for your asset management and move management. The training to be provided will cover transfers, internal transfers, surplus transfers, check-in, check-out. For those of you familiar with the program that this is replacing, we used to call those ELAs, Equipment Loan Agreements, and those must be in place and items approved prior to any auditor coming in to check for all professors or staff who have equipment at home. In this coronavirus, I think more of you are aware of those issues now that we have a ton of checkouts out there where people are operating from home. There's also a huge variety of reports that you can run through this program, and those reports I'm going to overview a little bit. That's very extensive. For those of you who are familiar with the data warehouse, which was part of our older system prior to Workday, they could run reports that were pretty extensive and involved things that you may not even need today. But we built that into the system. So when you go to run reports, it can get a little complicated. If you find you need those or you need assistance on those, there are times we have to go to asset management to help set them up. So that will be a quick overview at the end of this training, and might not be a feature that you need for a while. And like all computer programs, you need to practice these and work with them to stay familiar with the steps that are required. So your roles and permissions. Every individual who is approved by their department can go into their inventory and their inventory alone. They can move items around. They can send them out on check-in, check-outs. But you cannot see the entire campus inventory. It is exclusive to your department and your approval. If you find you can see equipment that you know belongs to somebody else, you need to notify us immediately so that any hiccups or glitches that we've stumbled into or you've stumbled into can be cleared up and clarified, so you're not accounting for items that belong to somebody else and nobody else is moving your items without realizing they don't belong to them. So those blocks and filters are built into the system, and just in case there's a hiccup in them, we need to know about it immediately. So if you'll keep that in mind when you're going through this, we would greatly appreciate it, and you'll find you'll greatly appreciate it in the end. This system is going to give you permission to transfer equipment to another department properly, put it on their inventory. You're going to be able to see items throughout the campus on your inventory in any building on campus. If you do not have equipment in another building or location, it will not show up as anything available to you. However, you can move that equipment to those buildings and room numbers that you presently cannot see, and it will automatically populate it and give you that permission. So it is possible to both loan equipment to somebody outside of your area, but you're responsible for it if you do that. And it's also possible for you to transfer so they're responsible for it as it goes onto their inventory. And those are all options that are available to you through asset management and through this program. Most of this I'm overviewing a little bit. As you go through it and you need to do some odd things, we can modify and do just about anything you can create. And you may need to contact us to help walk you through them the first time. It's too extensive to cover 100% in this program. So how to access it. Within the UNLV program, each department is listed. When you go into our program, Delivery Services, you will find that our director, Mike Lawrence, actually Associate Vice President today, Mike Lawrence, is over the mailroom. He's over inventory control. He's over surplus and shipping and receiving. He's also over telecom. You'll see a link in there or a attachment to go to any one of those. Be careful to only go into inventory because that's where you'll find this program. Each of these little red men, you can click on those. They're an automatic link to the AssetWorks program, and it can be your way in. Once you get them in and loaded, you may then set it up so that you can get in quicker if you wish, but you can always go to AssetWorks through our program. We will keep those links available to you at all times. Once you click on it, you will get to this screen. Your login is your ACE ID and password. We have had a few glitches where the ACE ID needs to be reset. In most cases, we'll have you contact OIT to reset those if you run into a hiccup or a headache in any form. But again, it's your ACE ID and your password, exclusive to you. And until your director or your supervisor gives you authorization to be in there, you can go in as a read only. You will not be given access to movement until that approval is received by us. In each department, we allow two per department, two individuals, to both move and have this type of access. We allow for a backup, and that's why there's two. So keep that in mind. If you think you're just going to get blanket approval to get in, and there's already two people in your department, you will probably be denied access for movement at that time. So keep that in mind when you're going through there. It's not open to just everybody. Once you log in, the main page to AssetWorks is really pretty simple. You'll notice on top, highlighted blue at the home, as you read across, your assets, your transfers, your check-in, check-out, and your reports are all up there. Once you click on it, it will turn blue and open up. Your home sidebar just underneath the word home will then open up and give you options within that part of the program to do what you need to do. Now, the red arrows are pointing to search buttons. There's a variety of searches available to you through AssetWorks. The tag number is obviously the number we use to control the more expensive items that we are under legislative requirements to track and keep on your inventory. The transfer number is exclusive to AssetWorks. Once you make a move on an item, or you search an item, or you locate an item to do anything with it, it will give you a transfer number. You will not have that number until you make that action. So it will not work if this is the first time you're logging in to take an action on a number. Once you start that, if you have the number written down or remember it, you can then search for it, bring it back up under either number, the tag number or the transfer number. You'll notice below that, we used for these purposes, the mail room to show you how to move things around, just as an example. When you open this up, it should have your name and department in that category so that only you can get in and see it, and it's only available to you. If you see somebody else's name in there that's not connected with your department, you need to contact us immediately so that we can make that correction and get you logged in properly. We're going to start off with an internal transfer. Internal transfers are moves made that affect building and room number changes only. These internal transfers are basically your housekeeping. If you're responsible for tracking items as a head of the department or representing the head of a department, then you need to know where they're at all times for audit purposes. Many of you are going to have professors who tend to move them around continually for classroom. It's understood that that's going to happen, and keeping up with your professors for these transfers can be a bit of a challenge, but you need to focus on that and make sure your departments and your professors are focused on your needs as well, so that the auditors can find, or you can find for the auditors, any items that they deem necessary to spot check. So we're going to click on transfers. Back to the home page. Once we click on transfers, your side transfer bar opens up. In this case, it's giving you three options: surplus, transfer, and internal transfer. We're going to start with the internal transfer. At that point, you click on that, it turns blue, and it will give you an internal transfer number to start your search. Again, this will not work if it's the first time you're doing it. There is no number assigned to it. If you're modifying a transfer or adding to it, then you have a number to pop in there and it'll take you right to it. So at this point, we're going to create an internal transfer based on the red arrow on the left at the low left. Once you click on that, you then have to create everything that you need to do. So you're going to click on create. You're going to get options when you get into this. You're going to have several categories that require the pop-up page. We've given you as many features in this program as we can to let you know that you can't just type anything in there. It will tell you it doesn't exist. You have to have it all properly formatted, but we've given you drop downs in every location. And if you click on each of those items in the description, it will populate the field. Just above that red arrow, you'll see that it has a tag number, a dash, a Dell Computer 790. Those are the formats and the information we need for this system to find it. So as you go through, you have to know what tag numbers you wish to move, and to get them done, you need to have it filled in. If you'll notice the hourglass just off to the right of that first box, if you click on that hourglass, it'll give you your whole inventory to choose from. As you filter through there, you may then highlight it, click on it, and it will self-populate that field. Once you have done that, you hit add asset, and the move, the transfer, is taking place. It will update the building and room number for you, and this next page is where you do that. Excuse me. This page will give you everything you need, or ask you the information you need to get those items moved. It will call them received. You're actually receiving them one building or room location to another. Once you get the tag number popped in there and get it opened up, you'll notice that on the arrow line before you hit save, you will find the building and room number on that line above to be blank. It's blank because it doesn't know where you want to move it. So you have to put the new building and room number to transfer that equipment in there and populate it. You then have to hit the drop-down box where it says in transfer. It'll give you received, void. You must change that to received. That means you are moving it, and that will take care of the move for you. Then you hit save and process it through and begin the process again on all the items you have. Each of the red arrows will highlight how to download and copy and print your records. Once you click on those, once you click on those, it will open up and it'll tell you that everything is taken care of. Now, if you'll notice at the top of the screen, it says successfully received assets just under your menu bar. That means you've completed the task for that item. And you may then move on and add more and more items to it as you need. It will continue to build it. Next, we're going to go to the transfers that are transferring ownership from one department to another. And this, you're basically releasing control and ownership of that item to that new department. A couple of things you need to be aware of. Many departments transfer staff or turn over staff in big numbers. Those transfers, once made and new people come in, don't realize it's a loaned piece of equipment technically, even though it's on their inventory. They've been known to cannibalize them and take care of them improperly, so to speak. So without this official transfer in place, you're still responsible for them. And if they've destroyed them, it falls to you to account for them, for your department. If you take care of this transfer properly and change ownership, it becomes their responsibility to then handle them and manage them and take care of them properly. If they cannibalize them or damage them in any way, it will fall to them and not you. So it is important to take this step for all items where your directors or professors have instructed you to transfer an item to somebody else. Again, you're going to click on the transfer. You're going to get the option of surplus transfer and internal transfer. This time you're going to click on regular transfer. Again, you're going to create a transfer because you don't have a transfer number yet. And you're going to open it up and start the process over again in the same fashion. Only now, these items are going to be transferred to another department. As you use the spyglass, the magnifying glass, to then populate your fields and you finally get it completed, you have to be aware that this will take your approval to put it in there and the department you're transferring it to approval to accept it on their inventory. You will get an annoying notice and they will get an annoying notice every day until that is completed. If you populate a transfer move and put it in there and it's awaiting or pending approval for the receiving department, it will send the notice to them every morning you have an action pending. And it will send you a notice every morning that you have an action pending. Don't hesitate to call them and get them to complete the task or you're going to be pestered to death with these notifications. So in this case, we've decided to transfer out of the mailroom a couple of vehicles and burden carriers, a Lenovo, and a Ford Escape. So we've typed all of that in. We've got it ready to go. Now, to transfer it and to begin the transfer, if you'll notice the red arrows off to the right, that is a drop-down box for each one. Pending, approved, rejected. At this point, you're going to put in whether it's pending, approved, or rejected. It will not transfer anything off of your inventory under pending or rejected. They will stay on your inventory. You would only hit rejected if you've changed your mind, the department has changed its mind, and they do not wish to get rid of, in this case, the Ford Escape, but they're approving the other two items, the Lenovo and a burden carrier. And they're still thinking about or rethinking the other burden carrier. That will not affect your transfer. The only two items that will go forward from this point on are the two with approvals. Again, you hit the arrow in each of those boxes and you'll get those options to choose from before you move on. So once you move on, this is the email that you will be getting that will pester you to death if you don't do it properly, or if the department receiving it drags their feet and doesn't get into them right away. Now, in this case, for the purpose of this email, it only has the one burden carrier on there, but it will actually carry whatever you've transferred. And it should have had two for this example, but we've corrected that glitch, and that is something that you'll see every item you approved on your email notification that is pending their approval to accept. It will not come off your inventory until they have accepted it. So be careful not to transfer that equipment or release it to their ownership until they've actually approved it and accepted it on their inventory. At this point, there are usually a few questions. I encourage you to write those down and move those transfers or move those questions to any member of my staff. We will walk you through any issues you might have that you've either run into or dealt with. But in this case, we've moved these from the mailroom to receiving to Colin Toohey. So Colin would be getting those notices every morning until he completes it. Now, in this case, both the mailroom and shipping and receiving happen to be under our control. So it's a little easier when you're changing that kind of a department identification as opposed to any of the sciences moving it around to chemistry or geoscience. That's takes a little bit more difficulty in that you're not directly connected to some of those other groups. And so you have to kind of pester each other to keep it done. So once that happens, Colin will go in and he will look at the transfer. Now he will get a transfer number in that notice. He can search it by that transfer number and it'll pop right up. He can go in, he can approve it. If you notice all the red arrows, it'll show you the information you need for locating and identifying these items. At this point, you're going to see this page, or the approval will see this page. We took and put a big red X in the middle of this. This system was set up for several universities across the United States. Many of the others universities chose to have this in there. This box that they will not take out implies that that individual can then take any and all equipment from you he or she would want to by simply adding more tag numbers in there. And that is not a possibility. We've locked that out. They can only transfer the items that you have agreed to send them and that you have done the paperwork on. So you can disregard that. They will not remove it from the system because they don't want to change and modify all their programs with that many different features. So you're going to go through and you're going to receive it. Again, a little misleading, but you're going to receive it as if it is a transfer to you from outside. Again, the building and room number will be blank. You get to choose where these items are going to be. So you'll have to fill in the building and room number. And mark it as received. You'll need to accept them as transfer, and then you're going to put save on it. You will then accept them, get them moved on, and they will go to your inventory, and that's simple. The next thing we're going to talk about is surplus transfers. Whenever you have an item that is old, dilapidated, obsolete, or is no longer needed within your group, whether it has a university tag on it or not, it must go to surplus. You cannot dispose of anything or throw it away in any way, shape, or form. Surplus is the only unit on campus that has that capability. You must do the paperwork to transfer it to us. The auditors are starting to take a very hard look at the items that we receive and pay for with state or federal funds that aren't required to hold a tag. But those items still have to be accounted for. So I encourage all of you to continue and increase the number of items you're sending to us. You're not even authorized to throw them away. That's our job to make that determination. So again, you're going to hit transfers. In this case, it defaults to surplus. So you're going to hit surplus and you're going to open up this page. Again, pay attention to the red arrows. Those are the items that you need to pay attention to. Any of your transfers into surplus will not require you to put a location in there. We will make that determination after we get the item, and it will be a locked out field where it's goes into the Thunder warehouse, and we will take it from there. We don't want anybody changing any of those field locations beyond that. That's our job. So as you get these areas filled out, you get the information in there. In this case, we use the library. You will then move to this page. Now, this page has a couple features on it highlighted by the red arrows. It brings a lot of the information forward you just filled out. When you send us a list of the items going to surplus, you want to send us a list that basically has all your transfer items on it. Your tagged items and your non-tagged items will be merged together when you're done. So do not worry about doing a separate page for each one. This program will consolidate those. So I apologize again for that. The two arrows are for your tag numbers. For each and every item that you're sending to surplus that has a UNLV tag, I need that tag number in there. You need to do the identification for each and every item. That tag means that the auditors can spot check it, will spot check it, and they want to know why and what we're doing with all of that equipment from time to time. As you go through and fill this out, every tag number you'll be putting in here one at a time and doing it. If you have 150 items that you're sending to us, you need to do 150 lines. Now, that's not true with non-tagged items. If you look at the red arrow pointing up, it says add assets. That is a feature where you're going to tell us about non-tagged items. When you click into that, it will take you to a different portion of a form to fill out that's very, very similar, but you must fill that out for non-tagged items. The difference being, I will allow you to bulk load. If you have 150 chairs, 35 printers, and 15 other items, I simply ask that you do not mix categories, that you fill it out and give me 150 chairs, and we will take care of identifying whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. You will always tell me that they're in moderate condition. Some will be terrible, some will be great. We'll make the determination of which ones to throw away, and we'll make the determination of which class to put them in, whether they're an executive chair or just an armchair, and we will take care of that. Same with printers. If it does not have a tag on it and it's an inexpensive printer, we will then separate them out accordingly and deal with the ones that work or don't work. But you may put on each line 10 printers, 15 file cabinets for each of the different lines. Just don't mix the categories, if you would, please. And it's a lot easier to bulk load those items. So having all of that in mind, you must already know what you need to transfer, you wish to transfer to surplus as a result of starting this page. If not, you're going to have to put it on hold as you research and recheck. Now, in the summer, when departments move around a lot on campus and are relocated, we will be moving you to new locations occasionally for a variety of reasons. So as you get all of the information together, there's times you need to start this report and go back to it multiple times to finally get us a moved report we can deal with and live with. So keep that in mind, and you can go back to it. But from there, you will need the control number on this report so you can continually go back and modify and edit it accordingly before you finalize it and send it on to us. Again, you may have several questions when it comes to these actions. Don't hesitate to give us a call. We will gladly help you out at any level. So once you've done these items, we're asking that you then each one fill out what it is. In this case, this is chairs. You may bulk load. You will always use the fair category for them, regardless of their condition. Again, we'll determine whether that's appropriate or not, and we'll make the adjustments as needed. So as you go through it, get it all filled out, you'll be building your list as you go until you hit done and completed, submit for approval. It will stay in there and it will keep building until you're at that point. So once you've done all of that, we will then send you, as we get the items in, if it's to surplus, as we get the items in, we will respond to you and let you know within 24 to 48 hours of whether your surplus move has been approved or whether we've had items that didn't make it to us that were tagged. Now you have an opportunity at that point to immediately research the area. If it's a tagged item, make sure that it did get loaded onto whoever moved it and did get sent over. If you cannot find it, if it is not locatable and we didn't receive it, it's not coming off your inventory. So you at that point must call the police department as a possible theft issue, and they will respond usually immediately. You have excellent probable cause, they have an excellent chance of finding it, and they will come over and try and get it located for you. Once you have them involved, they will give you a police report number. If they don't locate it, we can then delete it as lost or stolen with no problem. And that will take your responsibility off of that item. It will be deleted off your inventory, but not without a police report. If you delay any of this action and hesitate to call the police, they tend to not want to deal with it months later. If you've forgotten it or you got involved and you weren't too worried about it, well, then they're not too worried about it. It stays on your inventory, and now you've got to get approval from your dean director and have that in file before we will remove it as a lost item. And that includes your dean or director explaining why you lost it. That usually puts you in a very uncomfortable position if you didn't respond to it quick enough. If you did respond to it, it's out, it's off your back with the police report, even if they don't find it, and it's much easier on you to handle it in that fashion. So again, pay attention to those reports as you send them to us, and we respond to you and let you know we've either got everything, or if there's items we're missing, that needs to be dealt with immediately. You need to treat that as a priority one in our mind so that the auditors don't get on your back and your directors and deans don't get on your back for losing items. The next is reports. Again, these reports have a huge variety available to them on information, financial, that you can put in here that can be complicated to build. For those of you who are familiar with the data warehouse, we copied the data warehouse informations and reports available, and we placed it in here before the data warehouse was dissolved under the old Advantage system. If you're familiar with that, this will be pretty easy to operate with. Most people are not, and it can get complicated. So as you need to build a report for inventory purposes or for financial purposes, depending on what your deans or directors have asked for, this information can be built, and we may need to go to asset management to get it completed, but we can take care of that, and we'll be glad to work with you on all of those phases of it if you need them. Okay, in this case, you're going to click on reports. This list that you're seeing is the reports that are available through inventory control and for surplus. Don't get overwhelmed by them. We've built all these in there, and your list may get this extensive. We simply use this as an example to show it to you so you can do the checked in, check out assets that you need and deal with it. All of these have been created. They're items we use, and eventually you may have this many in there as well, but I doubt it. And again, it's for your informational only. Don't let that overwhelm you. So as you go through and build your reports and check out items, notice the arrow that says download it. This is for your checked out items and how to do an audit check when they want to see the whole list of items you have checked out. Now, you might keep in mind, this replaces the old ELA, Equipment Loan Agreement. These loan agreements are good for 1 year. You must renew them every year and have them updated, or it's considered a slap on the wrist and a no-no by the auditors, and they will get a little cranky over it. So as you get the notifications, you need to stay on top of these and get them done. We will send you a notice 11 months down the road, automatic, that's built into this system to renew your ELAs for a certain group of individuals, whoever they may be. You'll get a notice on each and every one of them. You'll have 1 month to make sure you get those caught up with and get them taken care of. And we did that as a courtesy because we noticed people tend to forget about them after 6, 7 months. They forget they've even got them out there. And many departments have to go through and really kill themselves the last 30 days or so before an auditor comes in to figure out what the heck they've got going and how many they have to deal with. We've tried to sidestep that and give you the courtesy information you may need so you can already have those updated. In this case, we're looking at creating new reports over and above the ELA. And again, you may need to call us to help customize these with asset management's help. And again, we can customize just about anything you can dream up and think about. And we'll be glad to help you do so. Okay, asset reports are the same. This is where the old data warehouse list is in there. You can build reports and get them going back and forth. It is fairly complicated, and you'll need to walk through this more than a couple of times. So I'm not going to do anything more than overview your report writing during this period of time. All of these features are pretty self-explanatory, but then again can be confusing because there's a multitude of filters that can be laid in here that all need to be put in for active, inactive, and building your reports, building your lists, and then adding filter rows. This is part of the data warehouse. If you'll notice all your little arrows of flipping things around and moving them back and forth from one side to another, These are features you can put priority on, put secondary information in there, and build the report accordingly. Once you have all the categories you deem important, then you start building the report and getting the fields for sorting, and click the report tab and it should start laying it out for you. This is a 5 or 6 step process and can be a bit confusing. Don't let it overwhelm you. We will walk you through it and we will get you through it if you need to take advantage of this. So in this case, we did an inventory report just for your example. We got it all laid out and we ran the report. Now, the report that you're looking at here is only the first page. You have to print this into a PDF to see it all in one report without going page to page to page. Once that information is available to you and you see it, it'll become obvious why they can't put it all on one page. Some department inventories have thousands of items. So you do need to print this out in order to read it properly without having to scan through the confusion of 10 items at a time for several thousand that are there. Okay, your check in, check out is going to be covered next. Again, this is a replacement for the equipment loan agreement. It's quite obvious that you're checking out an item to a staff member and checking it back in when they're done with it or when it's worn out. So, and they have to be done once a year for every piece of equipment that is out there. Again, you're going to click into check in, check out. You're going to get options to check it out or check it in. If you're checking it out, you obviously don't have a checkout number because you haven't created it yet. So you will hit the checkout box for create and begin creating it. Now, keep in mind that you used to have to do this for every item a staff member had. If a professor had a desktop, a laptop, a cell phone, and a dozen other pieces of equipment at home or in another location, then this had to be done for each and every one. Now, once you get that individual's name in there, you can keep adding items on what he has checked out so that you have it all on one report, done at one time, piece of equipment after piece of equipment, and you're done with it in a lot easier fashion. Okay, so in this case, again, we've given you the drop downs to choose from. You must use the drop downs so that they're formatted properly, or the system will tell you it doesn't exist or that person doesn't exist. So again, you have to use the drop downs and type it in. Well, actually, just click on it. It'll spot check it in. That prevents you from typing it in and making a fat finger error that will then frustrate you immensely. So in this case, also keep in mind something else I need to cover at this point. When you go to check in or check out items for a professor, it must be a staff member, professor, or any staff member that is under your department. If they're from another department and they're trying to borrow a piece of your equipment, you cannot check it out to them. It must first be transferred to their department, and their department will determine whether a check-in, check-out, an ELA is appropriate. So if you start getting a reject on an individual's name, that individual must be in your department, or these cannot be checked, any item cannot be checked out to him. So keep that in mind when you're going through this. This asset, after filling it out, is now checked out to that individual. Anytime you see a line, like the line at the bottom, with a pencil in the box that says view, you can click on the view and it will open it up. It'll tell you everything you need to know about that particular piece of equipment. As you're going through to check in items and you know the number, you want to check in an asset, you simply use that number and check it in. Now, the one thing you need to remember about checking it in, that piece of equipment may have been out for 2, 3, 4 years or more, and you may have moved your location 2 or 3 times. When you check it in, it will automatically go back to its last on-campus location. It will still show up on your inventory, even though you may not control that area anymore. And it might be right there on your desk as they've checked it in. You then need to do the move to transfer it from building and room number to wherever it is it's going to be, or check it out to the next person, or transfer it to OIT if it's a worn out computer. But it must be moved out of that location if you've moved location. If not, then everything is fine. But it will go back into the old location, and all of a sudden, as far as the list goes, you will have access back to that. But it also tell you there that you've successfully checked it in. You just need to be conscious of making that adjustment as you check it in. Check in, check outs. You can do a search button here, and this is one of the quicker ways to check all of your check in, check outs. We've built a multitude of pieces of information that will let you know how much you have out there. You can put your department in there. You can put your person. It will give you an individual person. If you put the department, it will give you all of the check outs that you have going in your department. This is helpful when the auditors have told you we're coming in the door and we want to see a copy of your ELAs or check-in, check-outs. We want to know how many pieces of equipment are out there, and they want to know when is the last time you updated their authorization. So they'll give you usually 4 to 6 weeks to research that, get it caught up with. They don't care if the date is the day before they walk in the door that it's been updated. As long as it's been updated, they will accept that and move on. So it's important that you respond to that when you get it. All the information that you need is right here in this report if you put from department. If they're checking an individual, yeah, that's very clear, and it'll do it as well. This program will search it from all information you put in here or from just a limited amount of information. It'll give you everything you need. So at that point, you click on the view to view everything about it and either check it in, go in and renew it, do whatever you need to do. In this case, you're going to check it in and it's back in the system. Okay. Next one is general assets. This is where you're going to be looking at the bulk of your inventories, again, prior to an audit coming in the door. At present, inventory control will send you a copy of all the things you need to take care of, and we will generally send you, prior to an audit, all that you need to have in regards to this. But it's also available for you to spot review to make sure that you have kept track of everything and you've not lost track of any of your equipment, and it's for your department's use to keep up with it. It's available to you if you need it. Again, if you call any of my staff, we can walk you through this, or we can print it out and provide it to you if you need it, and more than happy to do so. So keep in mind, this information, if you go to pop it up, is only going to be available to you if it's still in your department. If it's not in your department, you're not able to search it, you're not able to find it, move it, or deal with it in any way, shape, or form. So it will take everything you need. It will open it up. It'll find all your equipment for you. It'll give you a list of them. You can print out the list under PDFs and you can view them all. You go over them. If your department head says, get me a list of all my vehicles that are outdated that we want to replace, we've got some extra money, you can then filter down to just vehicles. And you can get all of that information to them fairly quick and easily so that you can assist your department to do whatever they need to do. The same with the computer replacement program. If you want to look at the age of all your computers, all of that information is here. It will give you a complete list of them. And by the tag number and the information on them, you can figure out when they were bought, how old they are, and whether they're eligible for the trade-in. It happens all the time. Might not happen again financially for us, but for a while, but it's available to us whenever those options are out there. Okay, in this case, you're disregarding the Save Asset button. This stuff is already on your inventory, and that button is unneeded at this point, and we will not have it duplicate anything because all that information is there. But as you get in and you need to search for a piece of equipment, this page will tell you everything you need to know about that equipment. And if the police need this information because you've been vandalized or burglarized, if you'll notice, it gives you the tag number, gives you the date that it was purchased, and gives you all the information in regards to it for the police reports. If you don't have time to look this up, we still provide all of that information for the police, but if you need it, it's available to you for all your reporting needs through the police at any time. Okay, you can view all of your history and accounting records that involve all of your assets and fields. Again, you may need to build some of these reports from scratch, but we can provide that information to you and assist you with that so that all of your reporting is immediately available, and you can save these reports so that you can keep running them and updating them. So once we've written a report for you, once we've assisted you in that, they're available to you forever. Okay. Advanced searches are something that there's a lot of features in there. Many of them so far, no department has wanted, but they're available depending on what you need to do. Again, I'm just going to quick overview it a little bit, but there's all kinds of searches available to you should you need them. And if you do, give us a call. We'll get hold of AssetWorks and we'll build whatever you need to have built. Okay. That basically is going to conclude the bulk of this training. The asset reports that you have out there and the advanced search reports, again, are features that are there. So far, nobody's needed them, and that's fine. We have a wide variety of reports that can be run for you. Keep that in mind if you need it, and we'll be glad to be of assistance to you. Okay, that's a summary of the whole department at this point. Like any computer program, the more you use this, the more comfortable you will be with it. If you're only using it, some of the features once in a blue moon, once every month or two, you're not going to remember everything we discussed on these pages. You are free and encouraged to call us at any time. This program is obviously online, and you can re-review it and check out the different categories that you need to check out. But we will also be available to you on the phone, and we'll be glad to come out to your area and walk you through whatever you need to be walked through on and work you through the program so you are comfortable with it. The more you use it, the more proficient you will be at it. And that is the end of this presentation. Again, you have our phone numbers, and we thank you very much for your time.